Hello, welcome to the Route to Success, where we explore the journeys of leaders shaping communities across the United States. I'm your host, Sara Orellana, and today we have an incredible guest, Joe Debney, Executive Director of the Summerville Family YMCA, located in one of my favoriteest places, Charleston, South Carolina. Joe's career path is anything but ordinary. I'm, a side note, super excited for this conversation. Before leading the YMCA, he served in city and county government overseeing elections, which, I have to say, get out and vote. Your voice does matter. And this is one of the most vital and often misunderstood parts of our democracy. So hopefully, we inspire you to look into YMCAs and to register to vote. Today, we'll talk about the lessons he's carried from public service into nonprofit leadership and the powerful work the Summerville Family YMCA is doing, as well as some challenges and opportunities ahead. This is going to be an amazing conversation, one I've looked forward to for all week, about leadership, service, and community impact. All right, Joe, thank you so much for being on today. I'm so excited for you to be here.
Thanks for having me, Sarah.
So, I don't know if you would like to do just a short 2-minute PSA for the YMCA. I will say, just personally, very, very passionate about the YMCA. I've seen great things come out of them, specifically to the state of Oklahoma. So I can only imagine what amazing things South Carolina is doing. But would you mind just doing just that short little PSA and then we'll dive right in?
Yeah, YMCAs are such a great place for people to connect from all ranges of life, no matter where they come from. I know that we're mostly marketed as a swim and gym, and those things are super important to us, but there's so much more than that with our YMCAs. We do a ton of community health programming that's totally free to anyone. You do not have to be a member. If you can afford membership, our YMCAs are super inclusive so that we do things to raise money for scholarships. So if you can't afford a program or you can't afford membership, we have those resources for you, and it's needs based. But then we also have this totally huge social responsibility arm that we have. And here in our community, we build beds for kids who do not have beds, which you would not think in the Charleston area that would occur. But that is just one of the things that we do that's been our flagship for a number of years.
So interesting about the beds, but you bring to light. We also don't realize how many kids go to bed hungry every night, and that hunger has become such an issue for kids across the United States. So, quick question before I dive in, and I apologize for going rogue. If people want to learn more or would like to sponsor a scholarship, make a donation towards a scholarship, how can they do that?
They can go straight to our website at somervilleymca.org.
All right. I would encourage you, if you get anything from this, to sponsor somebody. Joe did not know I was going to do this at all or say this. I will say my background is in nonprofits and my passion is helping them have the money to do what they do. And when I say the YMCAs do amazing things, they do. And if you know their story and their history, it's even more unique how long this has been a program and how deeply integrated this program has been into the very essence of our country and the founding of our country. And so I think it's the history is what I'm so passionate about, because one of my hobbies is history. So without further ado, Joe, you've been so lenient and amazing letting me do my own little thing here. Let me ask you my first question. You've had a very unique career path, from overseeing elections in city and county governments to now leading a YMCA. Can you share a bit about the journey and what skills or lessons from running elections you've carried into your work at the YMCA?
Yeah, it's a interesting way that you get to where you go in life. And from a farm boy growing up in rural South Carolina to going to Charleston Southern University, which used to be the Baptist College in Charleston. I actually studied to be a pastor, and then ended up changing my degree to political science. Was able to get a job working for the state of South Carolina in Columbia, running elections. And then my wife's from Charleston, so she really wanted to come back to Charleston. We moved back and was able to work for Dorchester County and Charleston County before I left. 20 plus years in that. And then the opportunity for the YMCA popped up on our radar. And while I was in college, I actually did a little stint with our YMCA in Florence, where I'm from. And And so it was a very,
Mm.
it kind of encapsulated what I was doing. So I went to school to be a pastor. I ended up doing elections and
Mm.
politics for so long, but then at the end, it was the YMCA does so much stuff in our community, so much good, that I just really wanted to be a part of it.
I love that. I love that. And I love the transition. And what got me is the phrase that you opened with it's funny, you never know where you're going to end up in life. Because if I thought for a minute when I joined college as an English lit major, thinking I was going to teach high school history, or sorry, high school English, right? That I would go to owning a business and driving around the country in an RV, I would have told you you were crazy. But I think and I don't, let me ask you your opinion. When you open yourself up to opportunities and just that uniqueness that life will throw at you, do you think that's always a good road to pursue, or should you stay on that path that maybe you've outlined for yourself?
This is something that comes up in our household a good bit with our children. My wife is very driven. She has a path. This is what she's going to do. My oldest son's very similar. I was not that way. I was just wherever the wave takes me, I'm going to go. And I just like not knowing sometimes the path, and just wherever God's going to put me, I'm just going to do whatever good there is that I can do, and be happy with it wherever I am. So I don't know if I espouse one over the other, because different personalities do different things,
Right.
but I have really enjoyed just wherever I'm led, I'm going to serve where I'm led, no matter if it's doing elections or if it's at the YMCA.
It's so funny. I think I'm a combination of you and your wife, because I love not knowing the future. I love just seeing where I end up and taking every opportunity. But when I start an opportunity, I can be very goal driven. So it's kind of an interesting combination of the two. But there's something so freeing about not knowing, if that makes sense, and just showing up every day and saying, okay, I'm open to everything. Let's do this. Let's have a great day. I think it's fascinating. Okay, so we keep going rogue. And I apologize. So next question. And this is something that I'm really interested in, because I'll be honest, what I know about elections is honestly probably what they taught me in like fifth grade history, right? Or fifth grade social studies. So I imagine a lot of people are that way as well. You've had first-hand experience managing elections, and it's such a critical part of our democracy. And I just want to state, we're not advocating for any party here. We're advocating for being educated and voting. What's something the public often misunderstands about the election process? And how do you think we can build more trust and participation in our communities? Or do you think there is sufficient trust and participation?
Yeah. So when I tell people that I ran elections, they automatically jump to the political side of that. And that's not what I did. Our offices are the government offices that hire your poll workers, train them, prepare the voting system, report results. It's very logistics driven. And so we're super sensitive to being transparent, getting education out there to everyone. And really just trying to help people understand the process. So, to your question, I think there's a misconception of what it is election officials actually do. And it is different state by state. South Carolina is different, that we are, the election directors in each county are appointed by a board that's appointed by the governor. And so we're separated from that. So there are some states where that election director is elected. And again, I'm not going to say espouse one way or the other. It just is the way it is. The states have their own way of doing things. In South Carolina, I like the way our system is. It allows for that transparency. It allows for the impartial side of elections, so that we don't get involved in any of the politics of it. But it is good to know what the specific laws for your state is. So when you move to a state, making sure you're registered to vote,
Right.
making sure you know the deadlines. South Carolina, not too long ago, I think 2021, 2022 is when we first were able to do early voting. And so prior to that, we'd had absentee paper ballots that would go out.
Mhm.
And so now we have an expanded early voting process, which makes it a lot easier for voters to vote early, And then on election day, it kind of alleviates some of the long lines that you see across the country. So we really try hard to make it efficient and transparent. And those are two main things that we focus on in most of the counties in our state.
I love that. And I love how clearly you stated everything. I would think that history made you the ideal fit for running a nonprofit because the efficiency, the transparency, educating the public, that's everything that an executive director does. It makes perfect sense the way you said that. So I want to circle back to something that you said. I would love if you know the story of this, how this got started. The bed program. How did that get identified and how is that a flagship? And what are your other specialty programs, I guess, or unique programs similar to the bed program?
Yeah, so we've had a long time employee of our organization. We've actually named one of our group exercise rooms after her. She retired, but she didn't really retire. So she's actually, I just walked back over because I needed to get some more coffee. And she's teaching water aerobics right now. But Jan Parsons has worked here for a very long time. And she saw a program that was being done in Augusta at that YMCA. And so there are three pillars to what a YMCA does: youth development, community health, and then oh my gosh, how I always forget one of them: health and wellness, community. Oh, the one we're talking about, social responsibility. So she went on the social responsibility pillar over to Augusta, learned that they did this program in the Augusta area. And so what it is, they reach out to apartment complexes and people in need. And so they try to pull their resources to figure out what is the true need here in this community. So you're not just coming in and thinking that you know the need, you're really reaching out to the community and getting to know people. And so they found that there were a lot of children in the Augusta area that did not sleep in a bed. Either they cohabited a bed with a sibling or a parent, or they just didn't have a bed at all. So then they decided, well, we're going to create this program where we're going to purchase beds, the bed clothes, teddy bear, and then Bibles, and then go into the houses, build the beds in the houses or apartment complexes, and then just be there with the parents and the family and just talk to them, encourage them, love on them for what we do in the community. She brought that back to our Summerville YMCA, and we've had that program going, gosh, it's been a long time. Anybody from our YMCA, or even if you're not associated with our YMCA, you can be involved in that project. So we'll open it up. We were just doing it once a year. Now we do it on a more regular basis. But that is just one arm of what we call our Togetherhood program, where we go out and do that social responsibility piece. We did work with Boeing in South Carolina, and we were able to purchase a van that we call YMCA on the Fly. So while on the fly, we take it out into our rural communities in our territory. We do food distribution, our community health programming, pop-up recreational sports for kids. And sometimes we just show up at somebody else's event. They've asked us to come. And so we'll come to that event and just support whatever that other nonprofit or organization is doing in the community.
How have you seen this shift community attitudes? And I don't necessarily mean towards the Y, because I think everybody, you hear the YMCA and you love it because we all know good comes from there. But how have you seen this maybe shift or even bring unlikely people together?
You know, I think that's a question that keeps getting asked in our country a lot, because there's this conversation that we're all divided. But when you get to know someone on a personal level, if you just sit in a coffee shop or you just meet someone and you strike up a conversation, you may not be the same. And most likely you're probably not going to have the same views on things. But if you just get to know people, it certainly draws us closer together. My wife will tell you that I was a total introvert, coming through college, growing up. And she said I had to turn into a professional extrovert. But now my staff, if I say I'm going somewhere, they know I'm going to be gone a while because I'm going to find a million people to talk to. Like Joe doesn't know a stranger. He's just going to start talking to people. And so I think as we mature as adults, and something that we show our kids, if you have kids, is just talking to people, getting to know where they are, who they are, what kind of things they're going through, because you see people every day. And in the South, especially, you'll say good morning to people as you're walking down the
Hmm.
street, and they'll say, "How are you doing?" "I'm fine." "How you doing?" "I'm fine." Everybody's fine. Everybody's not fine. And
Correct.
sometimes when you just take a second to ask questions or
Hmm.
just learn about somebody when you have the opportunity, I guess that kind of goes back to I'm super cool with the wave, and wherever I'm led, just
Hmm.
have questions. I just like asking questions. I like talking to people, and you learn a lot of stuff about people. And then you might have the opportunity to help that person, or you might be able to help them by other people that you know. But there's always somebody that could appreciate just a kind word or just chance to
Hmm.
talk.
I have to laugh because you sound just like me. Where I am currently living, I went to the little store here yesterday and I should have been gone 10 minutes, but I was gone like 20. Then I stopped and talked to the person at the front desk. Then I stopped and talked to this person. I didn't know them from Adam, but one of the things I love about the South is because everybody says hi to you, it's so easy to get that conversation going. And it's so I love learning about people like you. It's just like, tell me about yourself. What can I know about you? And I feel like those conversations are such a two-way street because yes, maybe I can help them, but that interaction is so positive. It just absolutely lights up my day as well. And it's that two-way street of that connection. You get to know somebody and you get to learn a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, let me hit you with a hard question.
Okay.
Every organization faces its own set of challenges, whether that's funding, community engagement, or something else. What are the most pressing challenges the YMCA is navigating right now?
Our YMCA, we're on the cusp of being able to grow even more. Um, we're working with our county on completing a sports complex out at one of our facilities. And we have a large geographical territory, and we've only been focused on one particular section of it. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to be in our rural parts of our community to address some of the needs that those people have. But then it's getting out there into those
Mhm.
communities and spending time, and not just being someone who drops in and then comes back out, but actually having feet on the ground and having a presence in those communities. And so that's kind of the trick right now, is trying to figure out, how do we do that? How do we get to a point where we can grow? And then do we have people on the ground in those communities who share the same views that we do for all the stuff that the YMCA can bring, and loving on their community? Or do we have a champion in that community? And so those are the things that we've been working on recently in the past couple of years, just to branch out and see how we can love on the community even better.
I love it. I love it. And I love how you say that connection to the community because it's always, I forget because I do this so much, it's that key stakeholder, but it's that champion, right? And that person who is going to advocate for you. And I love how you're talking about the partnerships and expanding to the rural areas. All right. Last question. So let me put the pressure on you with this last question. If you could wave a magic wand and solve one problem or launch one initiative for the YMCA, what would it be? And how can community partners like me help you get closer to that goal?
So we're talking about nonprofits. The YMCA is a
Mhm.
nonprofit. So our dollars that we bring in do a lot of things, but then they don't go as far as they need to sometimes. So we
Okay.
obviously have facilities currently that we need to take care of. Um, but then we want to branch out and fulfill the community health, youth development, and social responsibility pieces of what we do. So how do we do that? And so we're going through some scenarios right now, looking at how we budget, what programs are successful and not, because it's almost like when you run a YMCA, someone said just recently, I think one of our board members mentioned, it's kind of like running a church where 10% of the people do all the work. And then you're always trying to
Yes.
figure out, like, where can we be next? But then you spread yourselves too thin. So
Right.
the hard thing is, how do we do it? How do we step into that next role without spreading ourselves too thin, but also
Mhm.
meeting the needs where we see them?
Yes. So If you had somebody who wanted to come and volunteer, but maybe at a little bit of higher capacity, like a retired professional, are there opportunities for them to serve on committees to help with some of
Absolutely.
this work and some of these questions? Okay. And on these committees, if they're not comfortable with fundraising or asking for donations, is there other important work that they could do besides just ask for money?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, there's so many volunteer ways to get involved. We go out with that Wow on the Fly bus. We're pretty much out every week somewhere in our community. We have Low Country Food Bank located in North Charleston that we partner with, where we'll fill boxes. So we have all these opportunities to do these things, but then being in the room or being influential, if there's a person who has some influence,
Mm-hmm.
being able to talk about our why and what we bring to the table and how we can better expand a program or even jump into some other realms of going into a rural community. Like I grew up in a rural community, so you didn't stay there. The town I grew up, I didn't even grow up in the town. I grew up like 20 minutes away, but the closest town had 1,000 people. It's
Wow.
still got 1,000 people, and I haven't lived
Right.
there in 30 years. So the people who live there, though, have to go to other cities that are bigger to
Mm-hmm.
work. So who's there during the day? It's either retirees or children. So they're going to school there or it's older adults. How do we get jobs back to those communities so the people who live there, the adults who live there, can have a bigger influence on where they actually live instead of doing everything everywhere else, going everywhere else? So can the Y be a part of that? I think they can. We've
Yes,
got to think
definitely.
outside of the box and figure out, what does that mean? Does that mean we build a YMCA? Does that mean we promote growth in that area through working with government on different things? I mean, it gets down into the zoning issues. How do we work with the communities? So there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of thoughts that consume my mind on a daily basis with some of those things.
Well, I would say listening to you, what it sounds like to me is that the YMCA is the ideal bridge between urban and rural. And because everybody has such positive feelings for the Y, you guys are those great people to send in first to build that community trust, learn what is needed, and then find the solutions and bring those in, is what it sounds like to me, what you're
Mhm.
saying, which is ideal. But just to highlight, if you have 5 minutes to 2 hours a month, I guarantee you Joe has a job you can do. It doesn't always require asking for money. I always just want to put that out there because some people aren't comfortable asking for money, and that's okay. And if you don't have time, one of the best ways to give back to nonprofits that people don't always think of is make a donation. And there's never too small of a donation. I realize I'm strongly advocating for the YMCA, but that's because of personal history I have with other YMCAs, and Joe just gives off positive vibes. But what I always tell my board is, the example is when you go to Target and you hit the dollar bin, you think you've picked up $10 worth of stuff. You all of a sudden get up front and you've spent $100 from the dollar bin, right? So it just adds up that quickly, and there's nothing ever too small for a nonprofit. So I think what I would like to advocate is the Y is such a warm, welcoming place. If you don't know anything about nonprofits or your community, go to the Y, learn, volunteer, talk to the staff there. They're going to be able to point you in ways that maybe you can volunteer at the food bank or the animal rescue shelter or any number of ways. But I think what I'm trying to say, and Joe, please stop me if I've said too much or made you uncomfortable. The Y is a great place to start when you want to get to know your community and how you could serve.
Oh, I totally agree. And what we've focused on here, I've asked staff specifically, is there are other nonprofits in our community that do a lot of great work. We're not trying to replicate that work. We're here to
Correct.
support those nonprofits and what they do. My wife works for a nonprofit down the road. She actually was a high school English teacher, by the way. But she works with a nonprofit that helps adults with intellectual disabilities. So we've
Right.
partnered with that nonprofit. They have all their folks can come here and work out. We do all kind of things with them. Some of them actually have jobs where they'll help out at the front desk in some small skills. Right now, they're sitting across there selling lemonade to raise money for their nonprofit within our nonprofit. So we're not opposed to doing things like that. We want to help that nonprofit and other ones that we work with in the area. Because what's that maxim? A rising tide raises all ships. I'm sure I've screwed that up, but I think you catch my drift that when we help one, we help all.
Yes. And what I like to advocate, because so many people, what I learned in my career is you don't know what you don't know. And I have encountered so many people in my life that are like, I want to volunteer, but I don't know where to start. Start at the why. It's always a great staff, always a friendly staff. And I've never met a Y that doesn't partner with other agencies. So like that, you guys are a great place to just walk in and say, hey, I'm new to the community. I want to learn and I want to volunteer. And that's a great way to be able to support. Or if you're newly retired and you don't want to be sit home, go to the Y. They'll put you to work.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, Joe, thank you so much for your time today. Any closing thoughts that you'd like to give or anything you'd like to correct that I said because I may have overstepped a boundary?
No, not at all. I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you. I appreciate everything you're doing. And I've worked with a couple nonprofits similar to what your wife is doing. And I have to say that's been some of the most rewarding work that I've gotten to do is working with individuals with developmental disabilities. So thank you. What a blessing you guys are to Charleston. And if there's anything I can do, just let me know.
Thank you so much, Sarah.
All right. Bye.
Bye.